Hello and welcome to another edition of Plato's Caves Online. Today we have with us Lisa Schantl and we are speaking from Graz, Austria. Lisa was born in 1994 and she holds a master's degree in American literature with a focus on eco-criticism. She spent a year in Montclarion University, the United States of America, studying creative writing, print and online journalism, and editing. Currently, Lisa works as a project assistant in Universal Museum Johanneum, Institute für Kunst im öffentlichen Raum, Styria, Austria. She's a writer and also the founder and editor-in-chief of Tint Journal, which was founded in 2018. Lisa, as far as I know, you grew up in this village on the border of Styria and Burgenland. Neudau.
Yes.
Okay, great. And also it's very unique that you are the first person in your family to go to the university. Wow, that is super awesome. First generation university graduate.
Yeah,
you must
exactly.
be very special.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that, but it certainly was a different path. Yeah.
Okay, super. Now, I know that you have worked as an editor in the Montclarion and have also worked in the publishing industry for a while, especially in this publishing house, Lycam. Lycam, sorry for the pronunciation. And I saw that this is the oldest publishing house here in Graz, Austria.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's somehow its founding correlated with the founding of the university. And it has had various episodes, and I think recently, if you look at the bestseller lists, actually, it's doing pretty good again, and this is quite nice to see. Yeah.
Wow! So tradition and individual talent right here in front of us. Lisa has also published in her creative writings in Asymptote, in Artists and Climate Change, and the Normal Review, to mention a few. Now, I see that there is this dual call in you of being a writer and of being an editor. Which is your natural inclination?
I think, on the top of my head and also from my gut feeling, I'm more of an editor, probably. Yeah, then a writer, at least if it comes to professional life.
Okay, what about your creative life? What would you say? Like, if you are given a choice to be a writer or an editor, what would you choose?
Ideally both.
Oh, okay. That's a sweet spot of, I think of living the best life when you can have all the things that you want really all together. Now, how did you find yourself with the editor's pen in the first place?
So I think we have to decide or differentiate between an editor as a proofreader person and an editor as someone who, assembles work from others and publishes this work. And I think for the first one, for proofreading, I can't remember a phase in my life where not someone has asked me to correct their work. Literally, I think from primary school onward, I've always been the one to go to if you had a grammar issue or if you didn't know how to spell something. It just always came up like this. And also my teachers at high school, they also noticed that I was quite good in this, in grammar and spelling. They didn't like my creative part so much though. I remember always getting these wavy lines below passages that I thought were pretty nice and that were moving around the phrases a little bit and stuff. They didn't like that. They were really strict.
Yeah, conservative, I think.
Yeah, I don't think they ever read contemporary poetry. But yeah, so this just always came up again, and then also during my English studies, I worked at a proofreading agency for quite a bit. So I corrected lots of bachelor theses and also advertising tags. But again, it was more like grammar and spelling things and not so much the literary aspects. And then when I went to Montclair State, I took an editing course. Because I always felt there needs to be more to it, because sometimes I ended up rewriting all of their work basically that I was supposed to just correct, because it just didn't make any logical sense. And then at this editing class I actually realized, well, this is a thing. This is called developmental editing. And it was really a pleasure to just dive into all the theory behind editing. I also discovered that you can create your own style guides, so that you don't have to follow every rule that, I don't know, a formal guideline tells you, but you can also decide, actually want to have this spelling in all of the work. And so this was very new to me, and I ended up being quite good in this class, although as a second language speaker. So this was very... it just made me realize, actually, I am good at this. It's not just some hobby or thing, but I could actually make this work. So this was the proofreading part that I still do at Tint when it comes to feedbacks. So we have the option at Tint that if your work is not accepted, you can still have it feedbacked from us to probably, improve and then hand it in again.
Take note, writers.
So also, if you don't get accepted, don't worry. And so at least for 2 or 3 texts per issue, I do the feedbacking myself, because for all the other edits, I just don't have the time, because organizing a literary journal, as you maybe know, is quite intense. And so we have very skilled editors who do the actual editing for the journal. But for the feedbacks, I just love feedbacking people, and it just gives me a feeling that I can probably help their words become even more powerful. And this is just really cool.
So you did mention about Tint Journal, right?
Yeah.
So, and we have also mentioned that it was founded in 2018.
Yes.
So how did you come to found it, and why did you choose the name Tint?
A lot of questions.
Altogether.
So how did it go? The first incident that made me aware that there needs to be something for ESL writers out there, or not ESL writers, maybe just in general ESL speakers, was an incident at Montclair State where I ended up taking a linguistics class, and the professor just I think for the reason that I was from Austria, my first language was German, they just assumed, well, this person cannot be quite good in English. And so they ended up giving me a way lower grade than all the others on a task. And this task wasn't even hard, it was writing a summary. I mean, I've written summaries for all my life in English. So it felt off. And also because maybe I'm the first to study and in my family, and I'm definitely not a person to critique a professor until this point, because here I really felt that it can't be true, right? It doesn't feel right. And so I approached this professor and asked her, hey, maybe you just want to look at it again. I can live with it if you tell me what's wrong, because she hadn't told me until this point.
Oh, okay.
So if there's really a lot wrong, I get it. But maybe, look at it again. And 2 weeks passed, and then she approached me again and said, I'm so sorry, your work was perfect. You got an A. And I was like, aha.
Wow.
Yes, this was a revelation somehow.
Yes, it is.
And I think it really speaks to how English speakers see, or in general, how someone from a first language sometimes ends up just prejudicing people who come to it as a second language. Yeah.
And Tint is a journal which specializes in publishing writers who have only English as a second language. So I think that is a very unique quality that, gives Tint a place in the literary world.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean that it came out to be a literary journal. This sort of twist happened at at a publishing class that I took in the following summer in Los Angeles. And there we've been asked, or all the participants were asked beforehand already, do you have a project that you want to do and something? And I was like, no, I don't have a project. I don't know. I will just go there, learn all that I can. I don't know. And then though they ask again at I think on the first or second day. And then it just came to me. I don't know. It was just a thing. So I knew I've been like this thought of ESL speakers, prejudice stuff. It was on my mind, and there I just knew. Well, actually, literature journal. I love literature. I wanna help. Yeah, I don't know. Making ESL writers more popular. So why not combine this? Yeah, and so Tint was born, and there were immediately, I think, 4 or 5 people who were like, yes, we want to help you. This is such a good idea. And it was really cool from the first day onward. There was such a thrive to it. And I think this just then continued. So we put the first issue and the logo and everything together at this workshop. And then in the fall afterwards, 2018, I looked for a web developer, sort of all the other things that had to be organized. Yeah, and then in February 2019 we had the first issue.
Super. That sounds like a magazine that was born like with a cause in mind of sorts. And I think that if you have like a purpose behind a literary magazine, just not, you want another literary magazine in the arena, then you have the drive, and it has been thriving. It's thriving, and yeah, wish you the very best for Tint. Now, I hear you when you say that you had this incident at Montclair State, and I would like to ask, did you face any sort of challenges in your education journey, educational journey?
Yeah.
Before this.
Yeah, of course I did. I think this happens to everyone who's new to the academic arena. In primary school and high school, everything was quite settled. I mean, I was also the first one to go to a high school. So it already started there. Yeah. But, you're in this, everything's sort of programmed for you. You go to the classes on a certain day at a certain time, everything's fine. But then at uni, this framework does no longer exist. You're totally out in the open. And I ended up organizing my whole bachelor classes in a totally random way, because I was not aware that there was a thing called a semester timetable. There apparently is such a thing. I didn't know about it, so I was really looking through the whole curriculum. This I need to have this for this course, and I need to have this for that, so I have to take it in this and this and this order. Worked through all it myself. Yeah, apparently you don't have to do that. And also actually in the first day of, surely it was the first week or so at university, I almost quit right away again.
Why?
Because I also worked between getting my high school degree and getting into university. So my English was, there was a year between. It was alright. I read a lot, but also English at our high school wasn't, that thing that you had to be good in. So it was alright. And I mean, I was interested in all kinds of English literature. This was always my thing. I ended up boycotting German literature in higher grades. I didn't read anything that they wanted us to read. I read other stuff. I read philosophy and everything, but I didn't read their work, their suggested books. But anyways. So in this first 2 weeks, there was a class called English for Academic Purposes. And I got in there. I think it was also the first class that I ever had to take at uni. And then the professor asked around, just what experience we had with English, just where we were and what we did think about, English as academic stuff. And literally everyone in this class had either been abroad for a year somewhere in Australia, in UK, wherever. Their English I felt was perfect. And then there was me and maybe 2 others. And my English wasn't perfect. I had a hard time understanding everything. And obviously I've never had the financial means to go abroad. And so it was really, if this is university, I'm not sure if I'm made for it. I don't know. I don't know why I persisted, why I
was
kept
going
doing
to ask
it.
you. This next question.
I don't know. I think it was a thing not giving up. I didn't want to give up, probably. And this is also a thing in my life. I don't want to give up. If I feel something's right for me, I will persist. But it was hard. This was really hard. I think it only took me a few months to catch up. But still, these first few months were exhausting.
So during this tough phase, or even like during the moments when you found your writing call of sorts, do you think there are portals of inspiration that made you go through that extra mile? People, places, or things, or incidents?
I think it was always, like for me, writing has been a refuge since I can remember also. Actually, also already when I was 7 and 8 years, I think I won a minor scholarship to a week course in Graz with German writing. But like the stories from back then, oh my god, when I read them, I'm just like, how could I ever have written that? But it was a 7-year-old girl. But yeah, I think I discovered writing and reading for me quite early as a place where I could just be. And I think the urge to know more about why does this writing work the way it works? Why does this novel really draw me into it, and why the other one doesn't? Getting behind these also theoretically always made me stay and made me learn more about it. Yeah, and writing always turned out a refuge also afterwards. There's really a lot of phases and times when I just have to sit down and write. And although I never have in mind that this needs to be published then or so, it's just a freeing thing. And also I think during my bachelor's, this probably really kept me into it, this motivation to learn more and do more. And then in my master's, certainly Montclarion, the year abroad changed everything. It really did. I can only recommend to everyone, go abroad. Just go to a place where you feel it will be cool and you can enjoy stuff. Yeah, and there I encountered, just because you mentioned place, a wood in Canada when I was traveling that I still go to back now when I feel like I need a safe place. This is my place.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's fantastic. And when you say that you find in writing a refuge of sorts, and you are not writing with the idea that you want this to be published at any point. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't, like that we all do, but traditionally most writers think, okay, I have to publish this piece, how far we can get with it, kind of thing. But I do see this strain of your keen readership of, as you mentioned, that when you read a novel, a piece, why it works and why doesn't it work, that affects you. And do you think both these aspects of yourself help you create a writing style which is very unique to you, or did you find your personal writing style yet?
No, I did not find it yet.
Okay.
I think I'm getting closer. Like I feel recently it's that I open up to parts of myself that I have not been able to express in writing before. So I think this certainly helps me get there. But I think here probably my editing eye is a little bit in the way, because as soon as I get down to write, I feel like, I recognize this style, this thing. This is how it's supposed to go. And then as soon as I think this, it's it's lost.
You have to keep away your writing spectacles on and put away your your reading and editing skills.
Yeah, probably.
I guess so. Yeah, but when you do mention that the writing eye and the editing eye are very much intertwined in your persona, in yourself. How far do you think this interconnection has the strength to affect you? You know?
It certainly affects me as a reader. Because also from the ESL context that I always sort of look at with Tint, it just makes me aware of what can be real mistakes and what can actually be interesting choices. Also Ksenia Melnik, Russian author, pointed this out once. So I think I'm probably, through writing and editing, more aware of these thin lines.
But do they interfere with each other?
I think they do. And also as a writer, of course, you have to edit yourself at some point. So we have it probably already. I think they just, when they interfere, a little bit different. So as a writer, when I try to edit my own work, I have to be really cautious. Yeah, kill your darlings, Be strict. Like, this just doesn't work. Go about it. But then as an editor, you have to be more careful. You cannot just go on and kill somebody else's darlings.
Yeah.
You really have to focus on what is the writer's voice, what is their style, and how can I get that and help that advance. So I think they always interfere, they always cross over, but just for a short while.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's beautifully expressed, I think. Yeah. I'll come to the next aspect that I have personally experienced while working with you, that you have this very significant role of connecting the written word and the performance of the written word. It can happen through the pieces, like for the readers to know, the pieces that are published in Tint are mostly accompanied by a recording of the piece in the author's and the poet's voice. And also in other workshops that you have organized and you have led, you have had this idea to transfer the word literally from the page to the mouth. Yeah, so how does it come, how important do you think this is in the literary world?
For many years I thought literature only works on the page.
Okay.
I was super confident in order to understand literature, in order to feel its meanings, you just have to read it, and you have to read it over and over and over again. Maybe this is also to do with my interest in philosophy, because this is also the study, especially since Enlightenment, and so that you just have to read and dwell on subjects. But I love buts. I think I was so reluctant to accepting that there could be a spoken level or realm of literature that at one point I just was overflown by it. Because I took, I think it was mainly at Lucy English spoken word poetry, a workshop that she gave at the European Forum Altbach, that I had the pleasure to attend, that I really saw how literary words and expressions, they don't even have to be on the page in the first place. They can be just oral. And then I recognized actually this was how it was before. There was no paper, there was nothing to write on. there was just oral transmission, and there's a beauty in it that can be just as literary as any written text. And so since this revelation also, I kept thinking about it, and it always came back to me. I tried some myself. I'm not a good spoken word person. It's really not what I think I still have to write and read. It's also how I learn best, to write and read. But I think spoken literature can also open literature up to other audiences. Because I know plenty of people who really don't like to read, and this is fine, but they love audiobooks. So there's this aspect of it. But then at Tint, what I thought would be really interesting is that we have our writers themselves, who are all ESL, English as Second Language writers, read their work. Because this just adds their accents, their heritage, and also not just their accents, but really their intonation to their text. You can't, sometimes when you read the text on our page, you can't really differentiate, I think, with some of them, that they are now written by ESL writers. They're just, like, if I may use the word, perfect. But then if you listen to the author, they might, pronounce something differently. They might focus on a word in a sentence that you, as reader, would have totally ignored. So I think it can definitely open up a new spectrum of a text to you as listener, as the one receiving the text. And then also, of course, if a text is not performed by the author, but let's say by an actor or something, you as a reader might get aware of an aspect that you would have just understood differently, which again makes you aware of how many readings there are out there. Of one single text can be interpreted in so many ways, and this is perfectly fine.
Yeah.
And I think it's this connection that's quite interesting about written and spoken text. Yeah.
Okay. So, as our viewers and as I personally am feeling that you have this vision of sorts about what you want to do with Tint. Do you have a vision of yourself as a writer and an editor?
Well, a vision is maybe a little bit too huge. I don't know, I always had this has always been one of my stances probably throughout life. I don't plan too much ahead.
Okay, that's a smart move.
Yeah, I don't know why. Maybe not to disappoint myself, but also I think to have just the options there and to be able to reformulate my being. And so for me, I think, as long as I have the pleasure to be able to sit down and write and to be able to look at other people's writing and have them actually want my feedback and then probably make something with it and thereby contribute to this whole thing that we're in. I think this as long as I'm able to do this, I will be quite happy. And of course, I would be super thrilled if I could actually make a living from it, because right now Tint is a volunteer run. I do some translations that I get paid for, but it's so I need a day job right now to support me. And there's, as we all know, not much money in literature wherever you look. But of course, it would be cool to have a professional engagement that also pays the bills. But if not, and if I can also in my day job I find something to be meaningful otherwise, it's also fine. Yeah. So I don't know where the road will take me.
Keeping the ball rolling. I think
Yes.
that is what Lisa is saying. That it was such a big pleasure for us, to have you with us today.
Thank you.
And I would urge our viewers who are writers, who are readers, who are listeners to visit Tint Journal and you don't have to pay a penny for it. So you can read it for free. You can submit for free. And actually one of their submission open calls is right now live. So when is the last
Until May 31st.
May 31st is the date. So keep your pens rolling. And thank you once again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa.